Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 638, recorded live Sunday, May 15th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have returning to the show, Arkat.
Good afternoon, folks.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah. This week's screenshot, Supot visits a happy couple looking forward to a new beginning in the 509th DDO screenshot of the week. Thanks for sending in this week's screenshot. I feel like if he was a responsible citizen, he would actually tell them to turn around and go somewhere else. Stormreach, not a safe place. But
Especially for new couples.
yeah, right. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyberears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will not be next weekend, but might. There's probably going to be like a weird weekday show next time because that's just kind of where my schedule I think is going to land. So there will probably be a show in the next 2 weeks, but in the middle of the 2 weekends, kind of a thing. So we'll see how that turns out. But that's kind of the plan there. You can stay updated by following us on social media pages. At DDOcast on Twitter is the best place, or at DDOcast.com with our calendar. On the podcast this week, on the back half, we'll have part 3 of our Building a DPS with Jenn, which we recorded a couple weeks ago. So that'll be what's coming next there. And then we're just going to talk about, we got some game news and stuff to talk about. Missed last weekend. Is that right? Yeah, it is. I think so. Can you tell my schedule's kind of woohoo?
Irregular?
Yeah.
Yes.
More so than you. I mean, it's umpire, like, get to umpire baseball, which is fantastic. Kids are out there playing, and, it's always busy this time of year. Also, full disclosure, I had my second shot yesterday, and I'm kind of like half loopy from side effects of that. So this is just going to be a totally fantastic show, and we're going to have a lot of fun. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Let's talk about game news. Oh, come on, we're going to have fun. We're going to talk about game news here. We've got a couple of IT fun things, which is great for having an IT guy on the show. The first one that we're going to talk about is dormant account password reset. As part of their effort to keep people's game accounts secure, they have reset the passwords for all game accounts that have not been logged into in more than 2 years. Your game account and all of its data remains intact. In order to log in, you will need to reset your password through the Forgot My Password reset procedure. To further help protect your account, we also recommend that you regularly update your password details and never share your password with anyone. If you need further assistance, please contact account support through help.sandstonegames.com. Mileage may vary. Account support can and does frequently help people reestablish the credentials to their old game account. The process can take a while, though, especially if someone no longer remembers their old username, password, email, etc. But yes, you can do it through that URL. Boy, howdy, if you don't remember your email or your username, like, how are they going to find you?
Yeah, okay, there's a website out there called Have I Been Owned or Have I Been Pwned, I forget, .com, and if you go to this site, right, and it'll tell you, I think you put in your email address, and it will tell you if if it has information that you've been, so over the years, all sorts of databases and so forth have gotten hacked and exposed. Personal data has been exposed, and they keep track of this. I guess they've got some white hat hackers on on their that's connected with this site, and they go out there and they find all these hacked databases and user information databases, and if they find that your email address matches some of the databases that have been sold off of people's names and passwords, they will tell you, and they will tell you what was actually what which database was compromised, and about 2012, it's quite some time ago, the DDO user account database had been compromised. But I guess I don't recall. I guess it was Turbine back then. I don't recall Turbine ever notifying us.
They did. I
But
remember there being an announcement,
okay,
but I think it
but,
was a couple months after the compromise, which is not abnormal. When they find out, they tell us. But
right.
yeah,
I just found it kind of interesting that they waited 9 years to actually do something like this. I mean, I'm not surprised that they're doing this, but 9 years later, I mean, really? Unless there's something else that also happened more recently that
that they're not saying.
they're not saying, or that
Mm.
have I been owned.com told us about. So
I'm trying to remember the compromise situation several years ago, back in 2012. I think you said. Did they force reset everyone's password? I don't remember. Or maybe I wonder if
no,
even
they did
passwords were
not.
part of it. Yeah, I don't remember. I think this is just kind of a change in the landscape of the world, kind of a thing. Probably some security expert recommended they do it. To be honest, I'm kind of surprised that games don't, like, just in general, passwords don't make me change my password more often. Because
Right.
what it's
Well,
like 3 months, they recommend, experts recommend you change it like every 3 months.
yeah, so if you're at work, right, and they have a Windows network, there's a way to make changes to Active Directory to force changes every so often. You can do it every 42 days if you want. You can do it every
Hmm.
3 months. You can do it once a year. I mean, there's easy ways to force people to change their passwords in in most Windows network networks, and that's how we do it where I work and so forth. It's every so often, and I don't know why. I don't know why they don't make you do it. Maybe every 30 days is a little
Convenience.
too often, but once a quarter,
I mean,
once
once a
every four
year
months,
seems. I mean, it's a game kind of thing, so I can understand that people might get
right?
frustrated if they had to do it all the time. But if it was industry standard, that like every year they just reset your passwords. I
Or
mean,
force you to redo it.
right?
Rather than have them redo it,
Kind of like
make you
this.
forced to do it when you log in, like at some particular time.
Long story short, change your passwords more often than you probably do, myself included.
Yeah, that's best practices. I would definitely recommend it, but I wouldn't force it on anybody.
Yeah, I kind of also assume at this point that there's, at this point, I figured everyone's been hacked at least once, right? Like it's been a
Oh
lot.
yeah,
But
sure. You click on a stupid link in an email you shouldn't click on, or
not
open
even
up a
just that.
program you shouldn't have, or gone to some compromised website. There's all sorts of ways that you can get you get your stuff taken, your personal information stolen. Sure.
I can think of at least 3 different times that I've gotten, uh, here's free identity protection services because our systems got compromised and we're now offering the service for 2 years. And like I've had that a few times, including from a college that I didn't go to. So I don't remember what my connection with it was at the time. Anyways, the other thing to talk about, kind of IT related, Windows XP support is ending. Dungeons and Dragons Online will be deprecating support for Windows XP and earlier operating systems as of July 21st, 2021. All of your characters and progress will remain, and you continue to play the game by running DDO on a Windows 7 or newer operating system. Players who need to can contact account support for help. Uh, so there was a couple questions asked. This does not impact the Mac Wine client, which remains supported up to Catalina. Although I don't really know what that
For
means
all you
because I
Mac
don't use
people,
Mac.
you'll know what that is.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
um, so what this means, kind of in layman's terms, is XP may continue to work for a while. However, it will. They're not going to make any effort to maintain it working with Windows XP. So eventually, it's just going to stop working. But kind of on that note, if you're still using Windows XP, maybe stop because Microsoft stopped supporting it.
Years ago. Years ago.
Well, I know when before the pandemic, like my work computer I had to get a new work computer because all of the work computers I had were still running XP, and they stopped
Really?
supporting.
Wow.
Yeah. The scene shop is not well loved when it comes to computers. In my, I mean, we don't use a computer for a whole lot other than to like do some basic word processing kind of stuff and
Okay.
AutoCAD. So we're not asking a lot of
Nobody
computers.
cares about AutoCAD anyway.
I do. It's really helpful.
Sure, absolutely.
But in any case, I mean, probably a year before the pandemic, I think we went through that process to
No
get new
kidding.
computers. Yeah.
Oh.
So, but yeah, Microsoft hasn't been supporting Windows XP for years.
Yeah.
Which means that if the bad guys find an opening, then they're just not fixing it. So.
Nope. Cool. Nope, no more. You get no more Windows updates for XP. I don't know if you still get them for Vista. I kind of doubt it.
I thought Vista was
And
before XP, but
even Windows 7, you don't. No, Vista came out after XP.
did it? Okay.
Yeah.
Vista is also not going to be supported.
Right.
Their Windows 7 or better is what they're going to continue to support. So if you aren't on a computer that's running Windows 7 or better, again,
You
you
should
know, it's
change
forcing you
that.
to, but you should I would recommend that you strongly consider getting Windows 7 at least.
Well, you can't even get Windows 7 anymore. Well, I guess you could probably on a third party
Yeah, maybe.
website. Maybe you could get it, but I my official recommendation is Windows 10.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the fun stuff there. Potions. This conversation seems to come up about once a year, I think. Potions. Should you be able to use them while raging, or should you be able to use them on other people? Because you can only apparently do one or the other. Steelstar wrote in that it hasn't always been clear whether potions are or can be used on others or can be used while raging. Inevitably, there are people who want potions to work one way, that work one way to work the other, and it's both unclear and prone to breaking. Reversing the recent changes does not fix that. It just reintroduces the reasons it got changed in the first place. I think right now you can't use them on others, right?
Don't know. I got to be honest with you. I can't ever remember using a potion on somebody else, so I have no idea what the status is right now.
Well, it used to be that normal potions you could use on others, and the House K guild potions you could use on yourself while raging. And the two did different. Like they had both versions in the game.
Okay. So what? This is my best recollection of potions. The House K guild potions were bound to character,
Yep.
and then the ones you found like in a dungeon in a chest were not. They were,
Right.
you could freely trade those. Those are the only differences in potions that I ever really realized because like I said, I just don't use potions on other people. So I am, this here is fascinating to me, and to hear about, how it's been switched apparently, and it gets broken fairly easily. This is all news to me.
I'm not sure about the breaking thing because it doesn't feel like they break it that frequently. But if my memory is correct, and it may not be, the bound to character ones you could use while raging. The non-bound ones, which you could get in quests or buy from vendors, you could not use while raging, but you could cast them on others. Including, like, you didn't actually have to be next to them either, right? Like, you could just cast it like a spell, which is why it
Across the
didn't
room.
work while raging.
Okay.
I believe recently they changed it so that all potions work like the bound to character ones, where you can't cast it on others, but you can cast it on yourself.
Okay.
Which, in fairness, makes more sense to me just from the standpoint that, if you're 20 feet away from me, I shouldn't be able to shove a potion down your throat. But it also is very convenient to be able to do so. Steelstar went on to say that what they want, what would be best is to just actually fix the actual problem. And they have plans to adjust things so that they're consistent and clear, but those are not small plans, and they don't have a timetable to announce for it at this time. Just know that it's on our radar. So it sounds like they're going to try to fix the fact that you can either cast them on Raging or cast them on others, but not both, and maybe make it so you can do both at some point in time. Maybe.
6 of one, half dozen of the other to me. I couldn't care less either way.
We also got update 49.2 Wednesday, May 12th. A couple of fun things here. Many shots animation now scales with attack speed while standing still. It was already properly scaling while moving. The pause between attacking with a thrown weapon and reloading a thrown weapon is now properly modified by your thrown weapon attack speed. It had previously been erroneously modified by your bow attack speed. And that was
So
something that, like, from the beginning of the game, erroneously.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
hadn't realized that.
Yeah. I
Well,
remember
I did notice that on my thrower, it would seem to be a lot quicker, and I've gotten a lot more throws. And I think somebody's actually timed it where it's now 87 throws per
Nice.
minute or whatever it is, and it was like 69 or something, or
Yeah.
72 or something like that.
I think a previous iteration of what Steel Star was talking about with this is your mileage may vary depending on the difference in your thrown and bow speed were.
Mm.
Thrown speed does still have an animation cap, like bow used to, and they haven't fixed that yet. There were some questions that I saw about this, and the way that I find it helpful is to think about this in like Venn diagram, concentric circles kind of a thing, right? So there's the biggest circle is just attack speed, all of your attack speeds. And then you have smaller circles of melee and ranged attack speed. On the range side, then there's bows, crossbows, or thrown weapons, right? And so some things that affect your range attack speed affect all of your range attack speeds, but things that affect your thrown attack speed or your bow attack speed are supposed to only apply to those things. So that's kind of what's going on there. Key Shout now properly uses your concentration modifier instead of your intimidate modifier.
That's something that's been broken since the beginning of when Key Shout was put out.
Yeah.
It took Linabelle, like, she fixed it in like
Sort of.
one night. She figured it out, and I think she came up with another routine, wrote another complete routine.
Sorry,
Oh,
he
yeah.
he did
So
a
I think
hack.
a hack, right?
Yeah.
And
So wrote a new ability that just kind of bypassed it as opposed to doing it correctly.
right. Well, whatever. I mean, there's all sorts of other spaghetti code in there. Why not another one?
Yeah. Fixed an issue with Bone Paws on the aspect of Wild Hunt helmet, not updating the appearance of wolf forms correctly. Note that
is strikingly different. The wolf with that helm looks very different than when it did before.
really, I don't think I've
Yeah.
seen it since then.
So when the item came out and you put it on a wolf,
Mhm.
um,
It's like a
the
skeleton,
war
right?
paint. No, it's not a skeleton. It looks like a brownish, gray-haired, kind of mangy-looking wolf with the red war paint on the sides, but it was fairly
Interesting.
subdued. And the helmet, the snout and the eyes and all that sort of stuff, that looked very skeleton-like as well. When they fixed it, the wolf is almost pure white, and the war paint is very red now. It's very bright, and the eyes are now reddish. They kind of
Ooh.
glow, kind of thing. So it looks very cool now. It was okay before, but I think it looks even better now.
So my first question is, when do I get one for bears?
Yeah,
When do I get a
really. You
bear
would think
one?
they would have one for bears. That would be cool too.
Let's see. Blade Forge now consistently show the correct body appearance when wearing docents and cosmetic docents that are meant to show your basic body appearance beneath their gear. Blade Forge should now be able to use the cosmetic preview option correctly. DDO store cosmetic dose, since it had their colors disrupted several updates ago, should now have their proper ones restored. It's always good. If you won't buy it, you want it to stay what you bought, right? That's kind of the
Of
idea.
course.
The Sorokel set bonus now applies its correct effect. I like this one. A Frosty Reception fixed a bug with the Hag Boss where she was getting her level 9 spells on Heroic, Normal, and Hard. Oops. Which is what, like a level 6 quest?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Level 9. Yeah. Like what's it? The meteor storm. Yeah, you want to get nailed with
Ooh.
that at 6th level.
Beautiful Nightmares, previously non-skippable cutscenes, can now be skipped. That's kind of nice. That's the one that you flip back and forth, I think, right? The new one,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I did my first run through of that, I did notice that there was a lot of there were some spots where you had to wait for him to finish talking before you could click on things. It was a little annoying.
Okay. The wife and I did that quest. The first time it's the first time both of us had done it
Mhm.
last night. It was a little confusing and a little bit tedious at first, but then we started to get a hang of when to go back to dreamland and when to go back to reality.
Right. It's very much like Inferno or Mirror, right?
Yeah, mirror
Yeah.
mirror through a mirror darkly. Yeah, it's much more like that.
Several quests have had bugs corrected relating to Z fighting and stuck spots.
What exactly is Z fighting? Now I'm thinking, XYZ access, right? So is this more the three-dimensional, like if you're like in that quest in Sharn where you're on the source leads and the hyenas or the gnolls come to fight you and they're like above you? Does that mean you can attack them more consistently now?
No,
Or is it something different?
so I'm gonna give you an explanation that I loosely remember from reading reading about it from someone who posted on it. My understanding is Z fighting is when aspects of the world are conflicting, presumably in like the Z plane. So like if there was two walls coming together, they would be Z fighting or something like that. That's my understanding. So things would like flicker because you would see like it would be constantly flickering between the two.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's what's going on there.
Right.
But I am not a great person to ask on that. It's kind of what I recall from like a week ago or earlier this week.
Okay.
Melee attack speed and range attack speed on the main page of the character sheet now properly include feat-based bonuses to attack speed. That's very helpful. Thank you. And double strike, double shot, melee attack speed, range attack speed, and bypass deflection on the main page of character sheet no longer show decimal values to those stats, which is good. Although I would say like with the melee attack speed on the character sheet and stuff, since you have different attack speeds with different types of weapons, at least with range, right? Like maybe they should actually break out your bow attack speed and your thrown attack speed. Just saying.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Be nice.
Bonus days. Double daily dice XP through today. The store sales improve your character 25% off of select stat and skill tomes, tomes of heroic and epic learning, and the Harper Agent enhancement tree. Through May 20th. You can also get 5 long-lasting Cat's Agility Potions with the coupon code CAT-LIKE Reflexes. Also through May 20th. Woohoo! That'll take us to community news. The 425th Chronicle. Aldbar shows you how to level a small guild. So if you are a small guild, you're trying to level up, a good one there for you. The comment, what would be the most effective mimic in DDO? My answer is a Red Shrine. Because when you use the Red Shrine, you come back with very few hit points. So it'll be there ready, waiting to pounce and get you again.
You're too cruel.
You are
I,
talking to
I,
the guy that advocated for mimics on hardcore, so.
well, yeah, okay. Mine was lame. I said one that looked like the tail of Sulamati's, just because everybody wants it, that kind of thing.
You're
But I
talking about
tell
the
you,
sword, right?
yes,
Yeah, okay.
exactly. But the best one that I saw in the thread was the one that looked like Militia. So I thought that was pretty clever.
Mimics can only do objects though, right?
Yeah,
They can't do
yeah,
people. Right. Yeah.
right. right, exactly. But still, it would
Could do
still
like a
be
tapestry of Militia, right?
sure,
Or a bust.
right, right. There you go. Some sort of a sculpture or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, I really like the pun of bust in this case.
Okay. You're one of those pervy DDO players. Okay, I got you.
I mean, I was going more for the loving of puns more than that, but
I
anyways, fan site news. We got a shout out for Oracle of War, which is one of the shows I'm doing on DDO stream. The D&D tabletop. We're running through Oracle of War.
a
D-
low level adventure.
yeah, it's well, so it's an adventure league product. So they have an adventure for every level essentially, right?
Oh, okay.
They actually tell you like it's for 1 to 4, but then it tells you it's optimized for level 1 or level 2 or level 3 or level 4. And I believe they have come out with the first 13 or 14 parts of the series.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, unfortunately, Fantasy Grounds only has put out the first 4 plus this epic adventure. So I'm really hoping by the time that we get through it, there will be more available because I'm really enjoying the adventure. I'd like to continue it. Although it is really amusing because the adventures are supposed to be like 3 to 4 hours. And it's taking us probably like 8 to 10 to get through.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, we're not going super fast, but I don't understand how any group is going to fight like a group of 10 things in like 30 minutes. That's
Is
just
that
crazy.
is that because of the interface? Fantasy Grounds interface, people are not familiar with it yet, or I guess really
Um,
put it a better way, would you be able to get to fight through 10 things in 30 minutes if you were, if you were like face to face and doing
sure.
pen and paper?
So I think there's a Fantasy Grounds learning curve and kind of thing is part of the like does add a little bit of time.
Hmm.
Um, but I think you also save some time because you're not doing as much bookkeeping either. So it's probably a little bit of a give and a take in that regard. Um, there's also like I was doing more hit points because the party's a little bigger, which I think I'm going to tone them down even more just to kind of try to find a better balance and pace of play thing
Right.
happening.
Okay.
But it's just if you were a group that was like really had played a lot with each other, knew what people were going to do, and like your turns were really on the ball,
Right.
yeah, maybe. But I mean,
Yeah.
it still feels like as someone who's been playing D&D for I don't know, more than about 25 years or so, probably a little bit more than that actually. Uh, it does not feel like I don't know how you would actually get a group. I don't think any of my groups would actually ever get through this content in the amount of time that they say it's going to take.
Mm.
Part of it, I think, is just because there may also be a large aspect of it of I'm letting them explore. And hey, I want to do this and want to do this and want to do this. Let me check this spot. Let me check this spot. Let me check this spot. Right. So there's some
Right.
of that involved.
Okay.
But it's a lot of fun. You can check us out on twitch.tv/DDO stream Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern for D&D night on DDO stream. DDO Players News gets rose-colored glasses. You can check out episode 288. I think that was the show before the one they just released. DDO Stream is your first stop to find DDO on Twitch. They're highlighting Brighter Days Ahead, Doug Glendower, and Fridays on Ice. On Twitch, they're highlighting Apocalypse Dom, working towards Wings. They kind of buried the lead there. He's working towards Reaper Wings on Hardcore.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Wow, that's a little different.
it's also a challenge. He's up to 50 points, I think.
No
So
kidding.
yeah. Um,
Yikes.
Deathy TV is running High Reaper's Skulls and Heroics, and Nubicabra gets Fate Twisted. And on YouTube, they're highlighting Sam Skarobo on Hardcore, Cetus, and Valagar. And you can also check out Cordovan's weekly Wednesday lunchtime live stream as well on Twitch Wednesdays at
Noon.
noon Eastern. I think usually does some Q&A and stuff. So Yeah, there you go. Right, I think that's gonna close us out for news wise. Not a whole lot going on, but thanks for joining me. Anything you want to plug before we head out?
Nope, I'm not much of a plugger, so
Thanks for listening to the show. Thanks to Arkat for joining me and Jenn for recording the Building a Melee DPS. We'll do part 3 here in a moment. Unless you're listening to it live, we already recorded it. Anyways, thanks to all the contributors for DDOCast and to Staying in Some Games and Wizards of the Coast and to Cyber Ears for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOcast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. And if you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO and you'd like to be featured on our website, you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. Be happy to feature you on our website. You can also hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff, including some DDO play, the Lava Divers, our guild. We've been doing some D&D adventures, so those will be popping up shortly. I've been posting some of our hardcore adventures. I'm doing a static group on hardcore, so we've been doing that. And some other stuff as well, some non-DDO Dungeons & Dragons related stuff as well. Just creating some content because I'm already doing it and having fun. So if you enjoy it, great. If you don't, let me know, and I'll think about not doing it. But we hope that you
we're
enjoy
spicing it up.
What was that?
I said we're spicing it up.
Yeah. Or hey, if there's something you want to see me play, like I'm open to that too, but no promises. But if you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, leave us a comment or email us at ddcast@gmail.com. We love comments. Try to respond to them. Don't get a whole lot, so usually pretty easy to do that. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at DDOcast. Best place to find us. So, stick around for part 3 of Building a Melee DPS. All right, welcome back to part 3 of our Building a Melee DPS with Big Deep Johnson, or Jenn. Welcome back, sir.
What up?
We've been talking about all sorts of things. We're going to continue kind of talking about the attributes that are important to get for melee DPS. Some of this will obviously work for range DPS as well. Like the one I think I want to start off with. Hey, let's talk about sneak attack dice and damage.
Sneak attack is a very interesting thing because I've seen it where I've stacked a very high amount of sneak attack dice per se and have high sneak attack damage, but then there are people that just have way less dice, like 10 less dice, but like 40 more melee power, and it completely offsets it. So it's really weird how that works. But at the end of the day, have as much sneak dice as possible and
Yep.
damage as possible. You need to have you need to have a what's it called? A
Deception?
deception item. You need to have a deception item. The hottest one right now is a direwolf belt because that also has insightful seeker on it. Big thing, big things, big crits. Make sure you do that because it's super important. If you can fit that in, because the hot belt on the street right now is the Rams belt. That belt is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but if it can fit your setup properly, and you want to make sure you're critting as hard as possible, and you don't have the deception item anywhere else. You want to have this belt basically. Plus, you can rock that with the winter boots, and there you go. You got a little more PRR. Boom, just that easy.
Yep.
But sneak attack, that's the reason rogues are that disgusting. That's why rogues are so high up on the list as in number 1 because they just have a million dice. I don't know what the max amount of dice you can have is.
I think it's
It can
like
be
mid 40s, right?
It's mid 40s. It's just like, okay, you got that much dice, and then you got like 300 plus melee power. It's like, okay, you just hit ridiculously hard. You do. There's nothing you can do because you literally watch your damage, and if you have never done this before, and if you have like a rogue buddy or someone that can assassin trick, go to your guild ship. Go to the little testing dummy, not the dummy, but the turret. Go to the turret and be smacking on it. If you have a high dice assist, you'll notice a big difference. A high dice, as in like 20 plus. I'll say that's a high dice because if you're not a rogue 20 plus, you're doing great. All right.
Yep.
But do you have a 20 plus and you're just hacking the turret, you're debuffing it, you got your dust, you got your vulnerability, you got whatever else on it, and you're hitting, but you're not getting sneak numbers, right? Because there's has that immunity. Have someone strip that immunity away from you. Watch your damage literally jump up by like 500, and that's why sneak attack is dumb. All right, it's so good. It's so good. Do it as much as you can. Not do it, but build it as much as you can without giving yourself. That being said, sign an ethereal plane, pretty much a must have, because when you think about it, the only difference between Arborea, which is the other one you would even consider, and that would be 15 melee power and 2 damage. That is not outweighing the 6 dice, unless you're like very specific builds where you already have like where you don't have as much melee power. Like if you're really low on melee power, then you want to get Arboreal. Like if you're if you're a fresh tune, right? Fresh tune first life, and say what would I say the amount should be like 180. This would help you get to that 180, right? Versus then if you don't have it, you'd be at 165. You feel a little low, but at least you got 6 dice, right? Nope, wrong. You want to make sure there's a certain level you want to be at for melee power before you start caring about dice, or not dice, but sneak attack damage in general, and that's in the 200 plus, like 240 plus range of melee power. That's when you really want to start caring about like sneak attack instead, because that's a whole different number. That's scaling off your melee power. So the more numbers, the better. Basically, is what I always say. That's why rogues are just that good because they have 2 super high numbers. That's why they're that good because they have a billion sneak attack dice and a billion sneak attack damage, and they have high melee power. So there's just no reason why they wouldn't be the top. So if you can, actually no, if you can't, you need to be doing this if you're melee. Even range, I think range actually get it easier because I think they get. I can't remember.
Sort of.
I'm
It
not
depends on
sure if
what
they
you're
have
trying to get it
different items.
from. Ranger has like Deepwood has sneak attack damage in it. There is when you're talking about range, you have a distance requirement before you get sneak attack, and there's ways to increase that. Mostly Deepwood's Stalker, which is one of the reasons why I like Deepwood Stalker over Arcane Archer, but that's a different conversation. I think I want to touch on something that you kind of glossed over. I think sneak attack scales based on melee power.
Yes. Yeah, your dice is sneak attack works with off of 3 things: how much dice you have, how much sneak attack damage you have, which is through deception and
And
literally
some other
deception,
couple of things,
and melee power or range power, I
right?
believe.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it works for either, depending on what you're
mhm,
doing.
yeah. So you
But
want to
it's
make
like
sure those are high.
150%, right?
Yeah, it's 150%, and it's like okay, that's why it's like sneak attack is really really good, but you need to make sure you have the melee power for it to be that
Right.
good, or the range
Yeah.
power to be that good. That's why like at a certain point where you prioritize the melee power or range power before that. So just make sure you're worrying about the right thing at the right time, because after you get to a certain point, like I said, after you get to a certain range, certain uh area, like okay, I got this much melee power, this much range power, that's when you start caring about other things. Now I care about the sneak. How much sneak damage can I do on top of this? This is going to raise my front numbers like crazy, because it will. If you're a 20 rogue, you will literally watch your damage shoot up by like 800 or 1,000 just from getting sneak attack. It's ridiculous. But stack all those things up, and you'll just watch your damage fly, basically.
Yeah, we talked last time about kind of like a triangle of like kind of the 3 big melee power, double strike, and plus to damage. If you're able to on your build like really stack up the sneak attack dice, if you think about those 3 things, you're probably gonna end up wanting to lean more into melee power, right? Because it's gonna amplify your sneak attack dice,
Yeah,
and
amplify
maybe
2
you
things.
care a little bit less about the plus to damage because you're getting the sneak attack damage in there. So those are that's when you start really getting to play with those numbers and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll see what you prefer through like playing around with it. But that's why Rogue's so good because they get all that. They literally have all three. They have high damage, high melee power. Not the highest, like not as much as like fighters, or barbarian, but they
Pretty
still
good,
have a very good amount. They have really good melee
especially if
power.
you're doing Vistani.
Yeah, and they have 100%, double strike. So
Yep.
they have most of that.
Yep.
Like, that's why they're the best. It's ridiculous, but
All right, let's talk about critical profiles.
man,
Make it bigger and better, right? Like that's it's not a
bigger and better only matters if you can hit it.
That's true.
That's the big thing, because there was a huge change to this game when Sharn came out, and that was, can I even crit this thing? Because you need to make sure you got fort bypass, armor piercing. You need to reduce their fort to even think about critting them. You ever realize how hard it is to crit a Reaper in either Feywild or Sharn? Like, they have the highest fort on the planet, I promise you. Then that your crit doesn't matter.
Well,
But
let's talk
outside
about
of
the
that,
armor piercing stuff first, the fort
oh yeah,
bypass first.
armor piercing. Where do you get armor piercing? There's
a bunch of items that have it in these days.
I always get my armor piercing from my slavers. That's normally where I get it from, right now, just because it's most convenient for me. Because slavers are super convenient. Believe you can get it from Summer Cloak.
I thought it was on one of the family set items.
Part of the fact that's insightful armor piercing. You get like
Yep.
12 or 13
Yep.
like that. You need to have that. Um, you need to have some sort of armor piercing. Like you got to have it. If you plan on doing Sharn or Feywild, you absolutely have to have it, because otherwise you're not critting at all. Because then your crit profile just literally doesn't matter. If you can reduce it in any way, whether that be forget if Sunder works on that or not. Assassin's Trick.
One
Few
of
other
the
things.
things I love about being a bird monk is there's the thing that a bird attack reduces fortification by
Yeah.
50%.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
It's insane.
Plus,
Plus, I also have Jade Strike, which is like another 25%.
Anything you can do to reduce fort, make sure you crit. It's big. The more crits, the better, pretty much. But you want to. There's times when you want to find a happy medium, like a really good happy. Probably the happiest medium would be like a Sebian. Like, say if you're, I'll say single weapon fighting or two of them fighting, would probably be, actually no, just all around would probably be like a 17 to 20 times 4. That would be the happiest medium you can get. Anything above that, as in like lower crit range or higher crit multiplier, those are exceptional. That's what you want. You really want that. But a happy medium would be that. Like, you wouldn't be opposed to having this,
Right.
because that's like, it's not super low, it's not super high, it's right there. But
So
it
let me ask
just
you a question. Let's say that I have to choose. I only get to pick one, but I get a +1 to my threat range or a +1 to my multiplier.
Is it multiplier in general or a 19 to 20 multiplier?
Just in general. We'll make it harder for you.
Well, that I would
It's
say
hard,
that
right?
it is hard, but that depends on what the crit range already is.
True.
Because if it's 17 to 20 times 3, and then I make it 16 to 20 times 3, I'd rather have that than 17 to 20 times 4. I'd rather have that, because you're upping that chance by what, 5%? You're
Yep.
upping a 5% chance to crit, versus when you crit, you'll do 1 times more damage. I'd rather have that frequency, that available frequency of critting more often. That's why I would definitely take, like, you at least want times 3 crit. All right, I gotta say that you at least want times 3 crit, no matter what you're doing. Times 3, times 4, super optimal. Just normally, non 1920 times 4 would be like the most optimal one to have. Times 4, times 3 is acceptable. Like a 16 to 20 times 4 is awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what I think that's what you have normally on like a Kopesh with like crit range and crit multi. That's what you have, and that's why Kopesh is amazing because they have that
Yep.
exceptional rate where where it's both of those things. Where, like I said, it's exceptional on the range and the multiplier. But then you get into the 19 to 20, and granted, you have 10% chance of getting that, which happens more than you think. Because
In
I've
theory, 1
noticed.
out of every 10 swings, right?
Yeah, in theory, you can be really unlucky, or you can be the luckiest person on the world. Uh, because I've seen it, and you just notice it. You just hit some really really hard hits, and you're like, man, I'm really glad I got this ×7, this 8. I'm hitting like a man. I'm feeling good about this. It's hitting real hard. But then other times it's like, well, I'm not hitting that. Now I'm hitting like a little baby. Like, what's going on here? There's
Mm.
definitely builds where you want to be crit based, and that depends on the weapon. I mean, every weapon you want to crit, obviously, but there's some like say I'll give an example like a hand axe or a battle axe. And the main reason I'll say that is because a hand axe, you can synergize that with the swashbuckler one. You get the crit range. So now you just got to make up for the crit range. It makes it like 15 to 22, uh, by the way, which is nuts. And it's like 15 to 20 times 3, I believe it is. Like if you're in swashbuckler, you have a hand axe. And then if you go 5 bar, you go to tier 5 bar, now it's 15 to 20 times 5. That is insane. That's insane numbers to have.
Yep.
That's super, super good, but it's not going to happen that much. Hand axe, you don't have fetters, you don't have vulnerability or anything, so you got to rely on somebody else for that. I've gotten on people about that. Like I've gotten on people about like, oh well, you don't have no debuffs, you don't have vulnerability. I can't play a
The,
build
the
of a
new
weapon.
one, the new one in
that I
Feywild
don't.
has vulnerability on it. The hand axe.
What is the new one in Feywild?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I remember it
Oh,
has
that's
vulnerability
that's
on
the
it.
one for the raid. That's not one for.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah,
the
see,
raid
that's
one.
why that one is really good. That one's exceptionally good.
Yeah.
Um, that weapon's also kind of a bait though, because people that have run that, it's like not doing as much as they thought it would. It's critting amazing though, which is I think
Yeah.
the big thing. And people are getting kind of distracted by that because like yeah, they're doing a lot of damage, but I don't think they're critting as hard they want to. But that's when it's like, well, you're critting quite a lot. Like you're 15 to 20 times 5. Like you need to understand you're critting a lot right now.
Yep.
And that's gonna be more that can be more DPS, but then it's
You
like,
have to
well,
crit too.
you have to crit. You have to crit. That was the biggest thing with like I said at the beginning, you gotta make sure you got armor piercing. You gotta make sure you can actually hit this stuff. Uh with crits, make sure you reduce this fort any way you can. Any way you can.
And
Um,
every way you can.
any and every way. You
Especially
better
when you talk about
yell at that rogue man to put assassin trick on it. Help me out. Like,
we've been talking a lot about kind of raiding because that's kind of
mhm,
the ender ish game, right? Is
yep,
doing raids and stuff, and you end up fighting a lot of bosses for a longer period of time. A lot of those bosses have fortification built in, right? Like they,
yeah.
especially if you're talking about like undead, just start with like
Oh, that
100%
that
fortification at
too
least.
hot to
So
handle boss has fort.
yeah.
He has very high for it, and it's very annoying. You really need to have your armor piercing. You
Mhm.
need to have your bypass, everything you can, your reduction as much as you can, because otherwise you're just gonna be seeing non
Th-
crits all day.
This was a long time ago, but I did a series on weapon damage calculations where I actually like really dove heavy into math of weapons and stuff. This was back when Tower of Despair was kind of the end game.
Oh, you talking way, way
Yeah,
back.
it's
Okay.
way back, but it was just looking at weapon damage. Like I was trying to ignore a bunch of stuff, but I looked at like just to give an example is with back at the time, with Horoth, SOS was considered this really great weapon, but a lot of its damage comes from critical, and
Yep.
I was using fortification to compare lightning 2 and mineral 2 to Horoth, and that SOS was when you ran into that fortification, like a boss having fortification and not being able to bypass it, that damage came way down really
Yeah,
fast.
they're definitely weapons like
Uh,
that when they only strive off of crits.
yep.
That's it. So when you don't crit, There's no point to even having that.
And
Like that, like any axe. There's no point to do that. That's what the
right.
draw is to axes, like that crit multiplier.
The other thing that I'll say from that damage calculation too is like I was comparing great swords and great axes at one point, and great sword so the difference there, great sword is 19 to 20 times 2, great axe is just 20 times 3. The great sword actually comes out slightly ahead.
Mhm.
Slightly. I wouldn't.
That's just riding off like the great axe, like not critting nearly as much, right?
Right, yeah. And look, like I it was a small amount.
Yeah.
I don't remember where that information is anymore. I might be able to dig it up at some point, but you know, I wouldn't stress about it too much about if you're choosing between one or the other. Try to get both if you can, but get what you can, give nothing
Yeah.
back.
Get what you can. It's super important,
On,
especially on Faye and Sharn. Like
yeah.
those are the biggest places important.
On that note, too, it's probably worth talking about bypassing damage reduction. You know, make sure your weapons bypass it.
Yeah, if you got certain bosses, man, like
Yeah,
you got to make sure you got your silver. You got to make sure you got your good. You don't come in correct, otherwise you're gonna get made fun of. Like it's just
yeah.
that simple. We
And
got guilty people still don't let them live down for one mistake you made. Like you can't come out like that and make it known. If you hitting yellow numbers and there's zeros, don't let nobody know. Otherwise,
yeah,
you might
right.
never be in that rate again.
I do want to mention with that, there's a lot of augments that can help bypass that. I highly recommend you buy them from the store.
They're
And
probably easier to, yeah.
here's why I say that. You can buy those augments in game for 20 tokens of the 12. That's an option for you. I'm going to point out that you can also, with 20 tokens, buy a Heart of Wood. It's the same cost for tokens, but if you look at the store,
It's a little ridiculous when you put
the
it like
heart,
that. Yeah.
the heart is almost 1,500 points. The augments are almost 200 points. So
That's a very good point. I've literally always bought because I was at like an excess amount of tokens.
yeah,
Not anymore though. After TRing a billion times, but 200 point. I
it's
might have to.
it's 200 points to buy the augment in the store versus 1,500 points for a heart, and they cost the same number of tokens.
Yeah, that's my new plug for
Just
augments
saying.
right there. Like I was never going to that guy, that big earth elemental in that 12 ever again for that. No,
Yeah,
no,
right.
no, no.
Okay. We've been talking a lot about offense and really beefing up that DPS. Let's talk about threat mitigation for a second,
Ooh,
because
man.
we're trying to teach you how to really amp up your melee DPS, and we will know that we have been successful when you start pulling the boss off of the tank.
Mm-hmm. And those tanks hate when you do that. Yeah, I've been yelled at many a times for doing that. KT, plenty of times I've been yelled
Yeah.
at. That boss
And
turns around,
look,
and
it's
you
a
just gotta
lot
be smart
easier to
about it.
build a DPS that's gonna pull the aggro, right, than it is to build a tank that can hold, especially.
Yeah.
So that's just always gonna kind of be a problem. But there's some newer options with threat reduction, right? Now, we've talked about rogues and why they're awesome. They have special attacks that reduce their threat,
Improved
which is
fate. Oh, yep.
isn't that
Amazing.
great? I know, man, that is
It's the
fantastic.
best feat in the game. Easily. It's so good.
Are you talking
It's
about the
so
feed? I'm talking about like the enhancement.
Oh, I'm talking about the improved feat because it makes it so they bluff in their they like
Yeah,
makes it so you can sneak attack. I think it's great because it
yeah.
reduces like their threat. Yeah, oh yeah,
Um,
anything like that.
yep. So that's really there's ways to do that. I also want to. There's a set of goggles out of Death House that when you use diplomacy, you get a short, like a 20-second buff. So it's minus 100% to your threat range or threat generation.
Do you have to hit the diplomacy or not?
I don't think so.
If you don't, that's really really good.
I think
That's
you.
really,
I
really
think
good.
you have. I don't remember off the top of my head if you do or not. I think you have to I don't think you have to like successfully diplomacy the creature, but I think you have to successfully hit it with diplomacy. If that
Okay,
makes sense.
okay. No, I got you. You have to see that symbol like go up their head, even though it might say fail. You know, I got you. Yeah.
You have to affect something with diplomacy, I think is what triggers it. I don't think you actually have to succeed.
Okay.
And you can only use it like once a minute. But yeah, hey, minus 100%. You know, we talked about how to sequence your abilities. You know, I'm just gonna say, hit that before you hit your haste boost.
Yeah.
Might not be a bad idea.
There's the one very easy option to have for any of you heavy hitters out there. The biggest option is just have that minus 50 from treachery, filigree. You can slot that in.
Yep.
Crit, because I don't ever slot that in. But I have other options though, because if you had never looked at it, there's the old crafting system that is. I know it's in House J, but it originated in not the 12 or Lord's March, whatever where you get like the paranoia, the other ones like, but you want to get that, you want to you can craft them on helmets from the House J chain. Something madness, whatever chain that I can't
Age of
remember
Rage
right
chain.
now. Age of Rage, thank you. Yeah, and you can craft those on that hat. Now, granted, this is more work, but if you want to survive, sometimes you have to put in more work. I've had to do this. I didn't like doing it, but it's necessary. I would swap to this hat because when you have paranoia on crafting on the hat, it's minus 75% threat, which is huge.
Yep.
And it happens pretty much anytime you swing at it and hit it. So, and it lasts for like, I don't know, like 20 seconds, something like that. That's
Sounds
a good
about
time.
right.
So you can just keep that on, and that's already huge by itself. But if you're I don't know, if you're just swinging and hitting as hard as a mountain or something, I don't know, you can have both of those. And if you're hitting even harder, and if you're OG and just been part of the festivals and everything, and you got the minus threat reduction pot, because that's what I run normally. I run the
coffee.
like I run the coffee, and I run the paranoia hat on my on normally when I do KT. That's like the only time I ever really found the need to do that, because other times tanks hold it pretty well, but KT was like the exception.
You don't have enough
yeah,
time to build. It interrupts so much. You don't have time to like build up.
Yeah,
get into him, kind
yeah.
of thing.
I think the 125% right there. We're two. Well, no, that's 75, 50, and then another 50. Yeah, 175% right there. It's actually nuts. It's like, okay, you're definitely not taking it. If you see that dragon flip, it's not your fault no more. Now you can yell at somebody else. Now you know it's not you. I've had to do that. I've had to shift the blame just because they thought it was me. Like, you do what you can.
Yeah.
It's excessive, but it's worth it. And you'll find that basically being the slogan of a good melee player. This is very excessive and very try hard, but you're doing the best you ever done. Basically you're doing the most damage you possibly can. That's basically the melee life to say. So
Especially when you're talking about raid bosses, right? Because if they spin around, bad things generally happen.
yeah, if that boss is, hits hard enough and it's a high enough difficulty, you will wipe that entire party.
Yep.
You will end the raid right then and there.
My favorite is when someone turns Lord of Blades around right when he's doing his stun attack,
yeah,
and he stuns them, and then he turns
yeah.
around and slams the tank. That's
Just
always
claps
fun.
everyone. Oh yeah, you don't want to be that guy. All right, as someone has been that, you don't want to be that guy. It's not fun.
There's
'Cause
also
then you gotta point some fingers, but
you can also go get the I think it's Dark Diversion is the name, the necklace out of Deathworm,
yes,
and you can turn that into an augment. It's only minus 20%, but it's an augment. And it's pretty easy to swing.
That's more than nothing.
Yep.
Like, that was something I definitely I still need to do. Actually, I need to do that because that's a pretty big deal, especially when these raids on lower difficulty. So yeah, pretty important.
And that raid's not hard to run these days. The hardest part about that raid is to find people that are willing to run it.
I know the puzzles, yeah.
It's
well.
The flagging's really easy, so there's that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's threat mitigation. Look for opportunities to mitigate your threat because it matters.
It really does matter. It matters more, especially if you're getting the more high end stuff. as in I'm not even talking about R10s, but if your guild is starting to ease into mid Reaper to high Reaper, well, you're not easing into high Reaper, easing the mid Reaper raids, you might notice like I'm causing this boss to look a little sketchy right now. Do it. Put that effort in because everyone else is, so you have no excuse not to. So do
There's a
it. Get that threat mitigation.
there's a weird thing with the threat mitigation. Like if your group kind of starts pushing raids a little bit, the more skulls you go, actually, the less you need because your
Yeah.
damage is being suppressed. But like when
Yes.
you're in that like R1 to
I
probably
was, I was
like R3 is kind of like this magical place where depending on where your group is, R1 to R3, there's this magical place where you're still pulling. It's still really easy to pull that aggro, that boss, but they're now starting to hit hard enough that that one turn can wipe your whole your whole party out.
Yeah, it's a really weird spot. Then like past that, when you get like R4, R5, R6 is going to chin check your entire party if you flip that boss.
But it's also going to be a lot
That's
harder
not
because
a
of how
place to
much
play it
less
now.
DPS you're doing.
That is, it's going to be a lot harder. But if for some reason you're the bee's knees, you're the big dog in the party, and you still doing it, you need to make sure you got it because you do not want to be the one to blame because you already established that reputation working up your way there. Make sure it's not you anymore. Just help yourself out, help everybody else out, especially if it's like way further into a raid or something. You at the last phase of a raid and you just flipped them for the first time because you maximized your boost for the first time. You tided, you haste boosted, you had all three tiers of bound fate on them, dust, all that, and you just hit them for 10,000 or something on art, like whatever, and you flipped them around. You could have avoided it. You could have avoided it.
That actually comes into we talked about how to really maximize up and sequence all of those boosts to really lean into something. If threat mitigation is a problem, one, just gonna say if you're a paladin or fighter or bearer and you're in a stance that creates extra threat gen, think about that for a second. Maybe turn that off.
Yeah, turn that 150 off. You don't need that. You're already hitting like a truck. You don't need a truck that's blasting its horn. All right, we don't want that. No
Yep.
one wants that. The tank will hate you. Like, don't do that to yourself. All
But
right.
when you're also thinking about that threat mitigation, you know, it's the bursty part that can really get you into trouble. So you
Yeah.
can spread those boosts out. Now I would say, if you've got tide turns and a haste boost, I'd still probably, if you can get away with it, I'd still put those two together.
Yeah, you can if you're comfortable with like I'm not going to take, but that's just like if you do it off rip, like if you just like okay, this is the first time we're doing this. Let me just test the waters real quick. Like no, that's not how you do that. Like you don't do it like that. You don't just full tilt your way into that. No. Ease your way. See if you can haste boost and take it. You take it. Okay, back off. I hate boost.
Hey,
If you can haste boost and take it, maybe not tide. If you can tide and not haste boost, you can tide. If you haste boost, all of a sudden it's a problem now. You just got to be very knowledgeable with like, okay, if I want to say there's a good number, just through experience, that we've had in KT in particular, because we have a lot of experience in KT. I want to say when you hit around 1400, I think that's a start. 1400 front number. When you start hitting that very fast, like a haste boost or something, you can take that aggro off that tank. I think that's the number for it because I'm just saying that number in general. If you hit anything over that, like 2-3K, you're taking the aggro. But if it say it's like R8, R10, these are the types of numbers that some people were hitting. I was hitting like 1,000 on like a good day. I was hitting like 1,000, maybe 1,100, something like that, and that was making me scared because I'm like, okay, I know I'm getting into that range where I'm outweighing the tank's aggro. for this much, like where I'm hitting too hard for the tank to keep up, which is pretty important for you to understand that distance between. Okay, I can hit this hard, and the tank can aggro this often, because when you understand both those two, that's when you can create a good equilibrium. It's like, okay, we're at peace. I can do this. He can do that. We can just have a sustained DPS. I can be semi boosting, but not doing too much. That's when melee power boost comes in handy, because you're hitting harder, but you're not hitting as
Too hard.
fast. So you're not hitting too hard because you're not hitting too fast. So now the tank is just keeping up. He's keeping up and he's overdoing. So it's just knowing that that's 100%. That's 100% just a experience thing. Just you have to pay attention to something like that to see that. But I just made it so you don't gotta pay attention to it. 1400, 1500, you're hitting higher than that on a boss. The tank can't keep up. And if you're haste boosting, they definitely can't keep up.
Nope.
If you're hitting higher than that, you're gonna take aggro. If you're hitting lower than that,
Get some
you're
threat
good.
reduction.
Yeah, if you get some threat reduction.
Two kind of things with this that are more like player control, kind of skilly things is one, especially in take Lord of Blades as a raid example, somewhere where the boss is constantly resetting and the tank has to reestablish aggro and stuff. Don't be gung ho about getting in there, and even if you are, don't. This was kind of more of a problem back when Lord of Blades was kind of the new raid and kind of the end game.
Yeah.
There was this weird culture that Lord of Blades would land, and every time Lord of Blades landed, someone triggered many shot and started laying into him before the tank even got like more than one in Tim off, right? Like,
you gotta be patient, man.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're gonna get everybody killed, man. Just be patient for a second.
Be a little patient. Make sure the tank has aggro before you before you even just start going in there. Two, before you start boosting in, right? Like, don't just go in. The tank resets aggro and has just got it. That's not the time to hit adrenaline and hit your big special attack right off the bat, right? So
yeah,
give the tank a little space to do that. And the other thing is, if you're finding that when I lead a KT, I am kind of infamous for saying everyone kill trash. That actually has nothing to do with the instant, like the DC casters needing help to kill the trash. It's really actually all about getting the DPS off of the dragon to give the tank time to build more aggro.
Yeah, just that little extra.
Yeah, that's all that is. So
it's easier to say that than like, hey, back off for a minute. It's less aggressive, assertive, I guess you could say.
No, it leans into the aggressiveness, right? Because it's, hey, go kill stuff.
But it's like, oh, I can go kill this, instead of, hey,
don't do anything.
This, it's promoting violence, not you can't do this. So let's go kill some stuff. It works and everything. But
so think about that, right? Like, if you're having problems, the dragon, a boss is turning around a lot, and there's other things that come up to kill. Even if you have DC casters, just go kill other things for a second. It's fine. You'll be okay. Your DPS approaches 0 when you die.
So what he just mentioned was how he was telling them to do something, which is a great point, because your tank should absolutely be vocal. Your tank should have good communication skills, because they should be able to let you know, all right, come in. All right, this is about to happen. All right, when they're telling you to do stuff, it helps out the rest of the party. Do not mean this is 100% a raid thing, not as much a quest thing, but have your tank not be afraid to be vocal. Have them be comfortable with communicating with the rest of the party on what he's about to do. If he's about to move to the left and shift the dragon, I know we're talking about Casey a lot, but it's a very good raid. It's the best raid in the game. I won't argue about it. But if the tank gonna move to the left, the dragon jumps a little. He's gonna call it out. If he's hot with it, he'll call it out, and everybody else will back up for a second, because that dragon could do damage to everybody else at that moment. So them not being able to, not being afraid to, rather, to communicate, all right, I'm doing this, and then the party, reciprocating that, like, okay, boom, and they're doing something else. That way they avoid dying in that moment. It's super important. Comfortability with talking to each other is too important.
I'll even flip that on its head a little bit.
It's just so good. And vice versa. It can work vice versa.
I'll
Yeah.
flip that on its head a little bit because if especially if you're in a pug or a group of people that you don't run with a lot, and you know start DPS like, hey, when are you ready for me to come in and DPS? Okay, now I'm in DPSing. Hey, are you ready for me to really start like to hit turn of the tide and haste boost at the same time? Like, are you okay with
Yeah.
that? You ready for
Don't
that?
be afraid to say stuff like that. Yeah. Don't be afraid because the
So,
tank might be taking it easy. They might be underestimating
they
you.
might be
And
watching
don't take that as
hockey.
a challenge. Yeah, don't take that as a challenge. Not be like, okay, let me just really go off. Now I'm gonna adrenaline many shot this guy. I'm gonna kill half this dragon. I'm gonna kill us too at the same time. Don't take it as a challenge. Just be patient. Talk about it. Just say something. It can
Yeah.
completely change the pace of the raid if you do it improperly. So communication is key.
Patience
Pretty
is
much.
patience is good. Communication and knowledge of raid. You know, staying on KT, right? Like there's a bunch of islands where you reach a certain point and other things start happening, right? The second island with the in and out phase where there's a bunch of things just
Yeah.
blowing up, like those are good times to burst.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just knowing when to do specific things. That just comes with game knowledge. Knowledge of the
Yep.
quest, being comfortable with I'm gonna boost right here, I'm not gonna boost right here, I'm gonna preserve this, whatever. That just comes with doing it over and over and over and over. Like repetition is your friend. This is an MMO. Like we are in here for the long haul. Mentioned before, I've been playing this game for like what 15 years now. Jesus,
Yeah, it's
and
been around for a while, right?
it's been around for a while, and definitely learned when to do stuff and when not to do stuff, who I can do it with and who I can't do it with, um, because they know if I'm doing something that, like I might draw aggro or something. I'm not trying to because it's like this party isn't ready to like try and recover, like not able to handle that. Know who you're playing with because then you can play according to that, which is a super super big tip for Melee because I play more aggressive the more comfortable I am with my party. Like if I have a confident healer, then I can play however I want. And if you have like people that might not follow you up, they might not follow you up with like holds or not might not be the fastest healer. You might not have fastest CC. Might have not have someone like follow up with a dire charge on top of your dire charge or something. You might be a little more hesitant to do something. Might be a little more patient. That's fine. You knowing that is the important part.
Hmm.
Just acknowledging the differences, not acknowledging the situations you're in is super important and just playing to the best of your abilities in each of those. That's what you got to do.
I think it's a great place to end part 3. We'll be doing some more. We got more stuff to talk about. Although if you're listening live, that's gonna be it for tonight. Um, Jen, why don't you tell people about where they can find you?
Oh, if you guys want to find me, I am on twitch.tv/Big Deeps Johnson. I don't stream that much. I stream every now and then, and if they are, it's just the highest content in the game. Just Reaper raids, maybe a little R8, R9 Dryad coming up soon. Who knows? And I may or may not be drinking Target, but you just gotta hop on my stream to find out, though. But
Have you ever done drunken hardcore night?
oh, I can't do sober hardcore. Oh my god, I can't do it. I may claim to be the best melee in the game. I cannot play hardcore to save my life. I'm
You know,
terrible at it. I
we
can't do
we
it.
just need
Like,
to bring back drunken drinking nights.
oh god, no. Just bring up
Too much.
the true toxics are coming in. No, it would be fun. It would be fun, but we just gotta make sure we doing some reapers and not no. Well, we can do it on raids, but nothing a little
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah,
We'll
but yeah.
do something appropriate. Anyways, thanks for listening. Thanks, Shen, for joining me tonight and doing this. It's been a blast. We'll have it's probably we'll be back and come back to this topic. There might be a topic in between on here just to kind of give a break and talk about some other things. But we'll be back to talk about more. We got some more stuff to talk about. We'll come back. We'll talk about some feats, some epic destinies, twists, and some things to give you some ideas on how to maybe change how you build your DPS or give you some ideas, that kind of stuff. That's what we're doing here. But thanks for listening. Thanks again to Jen. If you want to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can also support us on Patreon. And you can also find show notes, MP3s, crash shows, and other stuff on our website, DDOCast.com. You can find me on Twitter at DDOCast. That's the best place on social media to follow for the latest cast updates. And if you'd like to join the discussion, leave a comment or email us at ddocast@gmail.com. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chests level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.